Hey everybody, how's it going? We were right in the middle of making several other videos about Star Wars and The Mandalorian, but I just had to take a time out to make this shorter video just to discuss how awesome and how important this past week's episode of The Mandalorian was to the Star Wars fandom and to Star Wars in general. Boy, what an episode this was. Excellent episode. Game changer for the series, and this goes without saying that this video is going to be full of spoilers for the episode and for The Mandalorian in general and for several other aspects of Star Wars. So if you are not caught up, if you have any interest in keeping any information about The Mandalorian under your belt until you watch it, then please go watch another video and come back when you've seen up to Season 2, Episode 5, which was indeed titled The Jedi, just as was rumored. And just as we thought, we finally got to see the live-action debut of the Ahsoka Tano character. This is something that fans have been waiting for years and years, ever since the Clone Wars and her debut. This is a character who was pretty much generally hated when she debuted, but has grown into a fan-loved character that has so far only appeared in animation and book form, but now we finally get to see the character in live action, directed and written by her creator, Dave Filoni, who did an excellent job all around on this episode. Could not be happier, unless for some reason we got some sort of crazy sort of thing that we didn't go too crazy, but that is something I actually liked about this episode, is it had the perfect amount of what everyone was asking about and wanting, and there was so much knowledge dropped and Easter eggs dropped in this episode. It is crazy. And the great thing is, whether you do know Star Wars like a hardcore fan, or whether you're just a casual fan and just a fan of The Mandalorian, I think either way, you're going to love this episode. It's a great episode, and it adds a lot of new things to the canon and to the information that we now know. Starting off with, let's just address it right away. The child finally has a name. The creature that everybody has been calling Baby Yoda for ever since the show came out, he finally has a name, and it is Grogu. Grogu is his name, and that is that. We learn this in this episode because when the Mandalorian brings the child to Ahsoka Tano, she is able to communicate with him through the Force and lets Din Djarin the Mandalorian know both his name and more of his backstory. We learn that this child was actually around during and before the Clone Wars era, being trained at the Jedi Temple, the temple that we see in the prequel movies on the planet Coruscant, and he was actually trained by several Jedi Masters. This adds a lot to the character's backstory, and we can finally know what to call him other than just Baby Yoda or the child. Although, to be serious, I highly doubt that most people will stop calling him Baby Yoda, because that just kind of is his cultural name at this point. But we do have something else to call him now, which is a huge change for the series and a definite new direction in general. But Ahsoka Tano herself also adds so much to this episode. We get to see some crazy action with her and her dual white lightsabers, which is an aspect of her character brought over from Rebels. This show, in terms of the timeline, does take place after Rebels, so if you haven't seen Rebels, I'm sorry, but you now know that Ahsoka is alive and she has these white lightsabers, and even Rebels fans, we don't know for sure yet why she is on this planet or what she has been doing in between the end of Rebels and now, but here she is. And another huge reveal in this episode, we learn when she's battling the magistrate of the town, when she defeats her, there's this information that she's trying to get from her the whole episode, and at the end of the episode we get a name drop where Ahsoka is still searching for Grand Admiral Thrawn. This is huge for hardcore fans of Star Wars, getting a Thrawn name drop in this episode. This is another character that has only also been around in book and animated form so far, but has an even longer history with the fans than the Ahsoka character does. This is a character that first showed up way back in some of the first expanded universe materials for Star Wars. There were a series of books that took place shortly after the original trilogy, where the author Timothy Zahn introduced this character, and all of those stories building up this character who was a calculating Imperial admiral that kind of was trying to take power after the Empire fell. All of those stories, after Disney bought Star Wars, were deemed non-canon, so fans for a while were pretty upset and didn't know whether we would ever hear about this character again, didn't know whether he was just going to be considered non-existent at all. But then Dave Filoni, the same guy who directed and wrote this episode, also brought that character back in a slightly different form in the show Rebels. So this character does have a very long history with Star Wars, but it has also, like Ahsoka, never been seen in live action. This is the first instance in a live action show where we're hearing about him, getting hinted at him, and well, now we're all left wondering, where is he going to fit in? Is he going to be the final big bad guy for this series? Is he going to factor into some sort of Ahsoka spin-off series or some other show that we don't know about yet? Perhaps a movie. Who knows yet, but he is there somewhere. He is involved. The person who had taken over this town and was torturing the citizens, for some reason, Thrawn is her master, an interesting word for Ahsoka to use, but that just does put it out there that Thrawn is still around. Ahsoka doesn't know where he is at this point, but is looking for him, and if you're a fan of Rebels, this also raises a lot of questions about the ending of that show and, like, where everything has kind of fallen and what we're going to see and how those things are going to be tied together. But it's just awesome to hear all this stuff and get hints at all this stuff coming. This is just a fantastic episode all around. I mean, the Mandalorian himself is now learning a bit more about the Jedi. Ahsoka kind of tells him a bit of their history and why she isn't agreeing to train the child as a Jedi because of Anakin. She doesn't name drop Anakin, but she does basically talk about him as the reason why she doesn't want to train Grogu, Baby Yoda, because of the baby's fear and attachment to the Mandalorian, and how he basically sees him as a father. And well, she's seen where attachments like that can lead to in a fully trained Jedi, referencing Anakin, which is also just great. Some of the action in this episode was also awesome. We got several great fights, Ahsoka just taking out guards left and right. We got a reference to HK assassin droids, which is another huge deal for fans of Knights of the Old Republic. These droids were featured in those games in the form of HK-47, which was a wisecracking, like, killer droid that a bunch of fans loved. Haven't heard anything of that specific type of droid in live action or basically any media for a long time, and here they show up in the form of two HK-87 droids that are flanking the Magistrate and also try and help take out Ahsoka. Spoiler alert, they do not succeed, but that was great to see that little reference dropped in there. And we see both Morai the Owl and Lothcats from Rebels and Clone Wars. And there's just so many little things about this episode to love that it's great. Even down to the fact that the episode basically culminates in both a Western duel in the form of Michael Biehn versus the Mandalorian and a samurai duel in the form of Ahsoka versus the Magistrate, both taking place at the same time. These are basically the two, things that Star Wars was based around, were Westerns and samurai movies, and this episode is just chock full of that type of vibe going on, even down to, the standard tropes of the gunslinger standoff. And you have this very Japanese garden that Ahsoka's fighting the Magistrate in. You have this town that's being oppressed, another standard trope of both of those type of films. And I mean, this show is just so great and encapsulates so much of what fans love about Star Wars that I hope it continues for a long, long time. And I can't wait to see what the next 3 episodes lead up to. We still haven't seen what is going to happen with Moff Gideon, although I can expect some very badass stuff about to happen coming up in the next few episodes. We now have Thrawn name dropped. That is he involved with Gideon, or is he just on his own? We don't know yet. We're about to see some great stuff, which should include something very important that was established in this episode, which is that we now know that Beskar holds its own against lightsabers. This is huge information, both for The Mandalorian and Star Wars in general, and Mandalorian lore, because now we have an answer to a question that has been being asked since the previous season, in that if Moff Gideon has the Darksaber, how is the Mandalorian going to fight him, or who is going to fight him? Was Ahsoka going to be the only one who could fight this person who has the Darksaber? Well, now we have an answer in that no, Beskar is apparently resistant to lightsabers. We see the Mandalorian block Ahsoka's lightsabers with his armor. We see the Magistrate fight her with the lightsabers with the Beskar spear. And now the Mandalorian has this Beskar spear, so he has a weapon that he can fight Moff Gideon with the Darksaber. That is promising to be an epic fight that we will probably be getting at the end of this season or sometime in the near future, and I can't wait to see that. And it also just establishes the further lore of, answering the question as to, well, how did the Mandalorians fight the Jedi if they had wars with the Jedi in the past? How did anybody fight Jedi when Jedi have lightsabers in the Force? Well, now we know that this armor, this metal, is not just incredibly rare and not just incredibly valuable, but it actually can block lightsabers canonically, which is just really cool information for the universe and makes for some really cool, interesting opportunities as to what we're going to see going forward. And I can't wait to see what we get. And not to mention, as one last icing on the cake, Ahsoka, when she says she cannot train the child, she tells the Mandalorian to take him to the planet Tython and an ancient Jedi temple to place him on a seeing stone where he can basically decide his own fate. And if he reaches out with the Force, perhaps another Jedi will come to find him. Now, beyond the fact that, is that referencing, someone like Luke or Ezra or even Cal from the Fallen Order video games? We don't know what Jedi might actually show up next to find out about the child, but the fact that she is telling him to go to the planet Tython is great in and of itself. This is another huge reference for fans of the expanded universe material, which is great. Something that the sequel films, I wish that they had done, was tie more of that existing lore in, but this planet has been mentioned before in what is now Legends material for Star Wars, where it was basically the home planet of the race that became the Jedi. So, even before there were Jedi and Sith, there was a race of people called the Jedi who were basically gathered to this planet that was strong in the Force by these giant spaceships and basically gave birth to the very concept of studying the Force. It's like the first Force planet in the expanded universe anyway. All of that information was wiped clean with the Disney acquisition of Star Wars, but now we are seeing this planet show up again. We have yet to see whether they're going to end up tying all that existing expanded universe lore into that planet, but we are definitely now going to get some form of it, so that's very exciting for older fans of the series. And for new fans of the series, it's a great thing too. This is just a cool new Force planet that Mando is taking the child to further search for Baby Yoda's place in the universe, Grogu's place in the universe. And once again, the artist formerly known as Baby Yoda does have a name. It is Grogu. I think that that's a cute name. I do not mind the name at all. Let me know in the comments below what you think of all the information that we got in this episode, but I thought it was just fantastic, and I cannot wait to see what the last 3 episodes of this season have in store for us. So come back soon where we are going to discuss all that, and we hope you are enjoying The Mandalorian as much as we are. We look forward to talking to you much more about Star Wars in the near future. We have several videos coming up, so please like and subscribe, and we will be talking much more about all these topics very soon. Have a good day.